There's a classroom in Hong Kong that has broken every teacher the school has ever sent into it. Kids sleeping at their desks, kids playing guitar, kids cooking hot noodles on a portable stove in the middle of a lesson. Then a new guy walks in with a cup of coffee, and within about a minute, every single student in that room is soaking wet. Because what none of them know is that their new teacher used to do a very different job. Our story follows a man named Henry, who has just returned to Hong Kong after years serving in United States military special forces. Marksman, hand-to-hand expert, the whole package. But he's done with that life. He walked away from it because he decided that war doesn't actually fix anything. It just destroys people. So he spent time traveling, trying to figure out what his life was supposed to be for. Then he got a postcard from the principal of his old high school, Tak Chi Secondary, and that made the decision for him. He wants to teach. There's just one problem. He has zero teaching experience, and the principal tells him straight up that he isn't qualified. Then Henry produces a recommendation letter, signed by someone high up, and suddenly the job is his. But before he leaves, the principal gives him a warning. The class he's been assigned is the worst one in the entire school. That is a massive understatement. Henry walks in the next morning and finds total anarchy. Nobody looks up, nobody cares. They act like the room is empty. So instead of shouting for attention, Henry does something smarter. He walks around and starts commenting on what they're already doing. He tells the noodle chefs to cut back because there's way too much sodium in that stuff. He stops beside a kid named Zufa playing a ukulele and actually helps him with it. He warns the gamer about staring at a screen all day, and slowly, that works. They start listening. Henry writes his name and phone number on the board, and the whole class bursts out laughing at his terrible handwriting. Then his phone rings. It's one of the students, telling him to get out while he still can. Henry just laughs it off, and the class goes right back to ignoring him. So he's done being nice. He picks up a rubber band and a piece of chalk, takes aim and fires it into the fire sprinkler on the ceiling. Water dumps down on every single one of them. The students scatter, drenched, and now that he finally has their full attention, Henry welcomes them to his class. After that first lesson, we meet the 5 lowest-ranked students in the school who sneak off to the sports supply room to smoke. Their leader is a kid named Jack, and his friends are giving him a hard time because he's got a crush on a top student from another class. Then the school's rich kids show up, the basketball team. These two groups genuinely hate each other, and the athletes never miss a chance to mock Jack for being poor. Later, while the team is practicing, Jack gets his revenge by rolling a bottle onto the court. The team captain goes down hard, and Jack's crew loses it laughing. Unfortunately, their English teacher Miss Liang catches the whole thing and hands out detention. So they pull a prank on her, spill water across her desk, and slip out while she's cleaning it up. Meanwhile, the principal has a much bigger problem. The education board is planning to cut 20% of the school's annual funding, and they've sent inspectors to tour the campus and decide whether this place deserves its money at all, which is the exact moment Henry's class decides to escalate. They balance a bucket of water on top of the classroom door, waiting for him to walk through it. Henry opens the door, and his reflexes are so fast that he knocks the falling bucket clean out of the air before it touches him. The kids who set it up just stare at him. Then Henry does something no teacher has ever done. He asks Jack for his pack of cigarettes. Jack hands it over, purely out of curiosity, and Henry turns to Zufa and asks him to name 3 chemicals found in a cigarette. Zufa gets it right, so Henry tells him he's free to skip class for the day. The room explodes. Everybody starts banging on their desks, demanding the same deal. So Henry hands every student a cigarette and tells them to break it down. Because here's the thing, he knows that if he just lectures them about health risks, they'll tune him out instantly. So instead, he makes them work out the consequences themselves and walks them through how tar builds up inside their lungs. And for the first time, this class is genuinely interested in learning something. When the bell rings, he asks for all the cigarettes back. They hand them over reluctantly, but things go sideways fast. In the cafeteria that day, the basketball captain deliberately trips one of Jack's friends, a kid named Bruce. The argument turns into a brawl, with both groups hurling food, chairs, and tables until the place is wrecked. And when the dust settles, 5 students get suspended. All 5 of them are Henry's. Henry finds Jack still fighting in the hallway afterward and pulls him off. When he tells him to calm down, Jack fires back with something that's hard to argue with. This school is rigged. The rich kids started it, and the rich kids walk away clean. So that evening, Henry sits down and reads all 5 files because he wants to understand who these kids actually are. Zufa is the son of a Pakistani immigrant, and he gets treated like a criminal everywhere he goes. Police in his neighborhood have accused him of stealing more than once. All he actually wants out of life is to be a musician. Dinan has spent her entire life being a disappointment to her father, who wanted a son, so she cut her hair short and started acting like a boy, hoping he'd finally look at her the way he looks at her younger brother, who gets treated like royalty. Bruce and Chris are brothers. Their mother ran off with another man when they were little, and their father drank himself into a hole after it. They basically raised each other, with Bruce escaping into video games and Chris grinding away at a grocery store job to keep the family afloat. And then there's Jack, whose file contains almost nothing about his family at all. We find out why soon enough. Jack works nights as a waiter, and one evening a man named Jan Ching comes in with his business partners. Jan Ching makes his money betting on MMA fights. Jack spots his expensive lighter and steals it. He gets caught immediately, and Jan Ching's men beat him for it. But when Jan Ching checks the kid's ID and realizes he's still in school, something shifts. He hands Jack some money and offers him a job as a delivery runner. That's going to matter a lot later. Meanwhile, Henry starts doing something no teacher is required to do. He goes to these kids' homes. He shows up at Zufa's place and finds him sprinting away from his own father after stealing a ticket. Henry helps him get away at first, then hears the full story and firmly takes the father's side. Afterward, the two of them end up at a bridge where a street band is performing. Henry, of all people, steps up and starts singing with them. And watching his teacher stand there in public with zero fear, Zufa finds the courage to join in and perform in front of people for the first time since he was bullied for it years ago. Elsewhere, Bruce and Chris's father staggers home late and orders them to fetch him beer. When they refuse, he screams at them to get out of his house. The next day, Henry goes and finds that man, and somehow he talks him into checking into rehab for his son's sake. Then there's Denon. Her father shows up with a bag of makeup and tells her to try acting like a girl for once. She's had enough. She dumps every bit of that makeup on her little brother's face, grabs the car keys, and takes off. Henry stops her before she gets out of the driveway. He points out that driving without a license is a fast way to ruin her life and offers her a trade. He takes her to a go-kart track, and he invites her father. What follows is not a friendly family bonding activity. Those two race each other with absolutely no mercy, bumping and cutting each other off until they both end up flying off the track. Then a vehicle slams into Danon's cart. She manages to dodge it, but her father doesn't see that. All he sees is the wreck, and he breaks down sobbing, convinced his daughter is dead. And standing there watching him fall apart, Danon finally understands something she's doubted her whole life. He does love her. She runs over and hugs him. Around the same time, a group of students including Bruce and Chris get assigned to interview a recovering alcoholic at a rehabilitation center. They walk in and freeze. The man they're supposed to interview is their father. The other students start asking questions, and he answers honestly. He loved his wife more than anything, and she left him at the lowest point of his life. So he started drinking, and somewhere in there he forgot he had two sons who needed him. He never tells the room that those two boys are sitting right in front of him. He just apologizes, and both brothers are wrecked by the time it's over. But while all of this is going right, Jack's situation is going very wrong. He's been working for Jianing, and now Jianing wants something specific. There's a fight coming up, and he wants Jack to slip drugs into one of the fighters' drinks. There's serious money in it. Jack doesn't want any part of this. He gets forced into it anyway, because here's Jianing's play. He's publicly sponsoring this fighter while secretly betting on him to lose. On fight night, Jack drugs the drink and gets caught doing it. Before he can say a word about who sent him, they beat him and lock him inside a locker. Then Henry walks into that building. He asks the fighters if they've seen his student. They tell him to go home, and that's when Jack starts screaming for help from inside the locker. Henry doesn't hesitate. He goes through the first group of them like they're standing still. When the actual fighters step up, it gets rougher, but he reads every attack coming and slips it. And by the end of it, he's knocked out their best fighter, the one who was supposed to compete in a few minutes. At the hospital afterward, while Henry is getting stitched up, Jack tries to tell the police what Jianing made him do. He gets shut down before he can finish. But the story hits the news anyway. Suddenly, Henry is the teacher who took apart a professional fighter to save one of his students. His reputation at school transforms overnight. Students who used to ignore him now stand up when he enters the room, and this is where we finally learn who Henry used to be. Because back when he was a student at this same school, Henry wasn't the hero, he was the troublemaker. At one school event, he threw water balloons at a boy who was performing piano for a room full of parents. Later, the two of them fought, and during that fight, the principal's statue came down on the other boy's hand and destroyed it. That kid never played piano again. Henry was expelled, and the only reason his life didn't end there is that the principal still believed in him enough to write him a recommendation to a military school in the States. Back in the present, things are finally good. The class is studying hard for the college entrance exam, and they're actually improving, except for Bruce. Bruce has been secretly using drugs to cope with everything happening at home, and by now he's addicted. He can't focus. He bombs the mock exam badly. Henry promises to help him, but Bruce keeps sinking, and one day, he jumps off the balcony of his own home. He survives, Barely. He's rushed to the hospital and slips into a coma. Then the media gets hold of it and twists the whole story, pinning the blame on the school, and specifically on Henry. The education board hauls him in, and they revoke his teaching license. So Henry packs up his things and walks out. And as he goes, the students chase after him down the hallway, begging him not to leave. They can't stop it, but they decide on something else instead. They're going to score high enough on that entrance exam to prove to the board that Henry was the best teacher this school ever had. From that day, they studied twice as hard. Then exam day arrives, and every student in the class gets a text from Henry's phone asking them to meet at the school an hour early. They all show up, and it's a trap. Jianying sent that message. His men lock the students inside the building, so they'll miss the exam entirely. This is his way of punishing Henry, by destroying the one thing Henry actually cares about. Henry gets there, and figures it out fast. He breaks the students loose, and takes on every man Jianying brought with him, holding the whole group off while shouting at his kids to run. They sprint for the examination hall, and Henry stays behind to face Jianying alone. The two of them go at it, and mid-fight, Jianying finally tells him who he is. He's the boy from that school event, the one whose hand Henry crushed. Because of that injury, he couldn't compete in a major music competition he'd been working toward. He never touched a piano again, and he spent every year since blaming the person who took it from him. Henry tries to reason with him. Jianying comes at him harder. They end up struggling over a knife, and Henry wins control of it. He has a clear opening to end this man right there. He doesn't take it. Instead, he drives the blade into his own thigh, paying back, in the only way he can, the damage he did to another kid's hand all those years ago. Then he asks Jianying to forgive him for what he did when he was young and stupid, and he walks away, leaving a grown man behind him in tears. Across town, the students make it to the examination hall just in time and sit the test. A few weeks later, the results come in. Every single one of them passes, and they pass well. Their scores pull the school's ranking up so dramatically that the education board doesn't cut the funding at all. They increase it by 20%, and the principal is overjoyed. Jianying starts playing piano again. He's badly out of practice, and it'll take him a long time to get back what he lost, but he's playing. Bruce recovers and promises he'll be there to take the entrance exam next year, and Henry gets his classroom back. The movie closes exactly the way it opened. Henry walks into a room full of a brand new batch of loud, disrespectful teenagers who have no idea who they're dealing with. Then he picks up a piece of chalk, takes aim at the fire sprinkler, and soaks every last one of them.